Good morning, sir. This is Sherry Ann Lubiano from BSED English. Sir, I made this intro just to let you know that this is my first time doing the demo of DLP. I give my best, sir. I just learned this through observation. When someone do the demo and then I observe and just learn, not totally learn, but honestly, I already did my best, but sir, I want to learn more in demo, so if I have a lot of mistakes in doing this right now, sir, please let me know, sir, if it's okay if you will drop your comment to my DLP. Thank you, sir. So I will start my demo right now. Hi class, good day and good morning. So is your morning as good as mine? Okay, that's great. So, before we start our class, may we have our prayer first? So, may I call on Mr. Zabate, since you are the assigned who will lead a prayer today. Sign it up, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Okay, so class, before you sit down, kindly pick up the trashes under your chairs or the trashes inside the classroom. I'll give you 1 minute to do it. Okay, done? Okay, very good. So where is Miss Secretary? Okay, Miss Secretary, how was the attendance for this class today? Did you already check it or not yet? Okay, not yet. Okay, Miss Secretary, I'll give you 20 minutes. Check the attendance. So start it right now. Okay, so is absent, Miss Secretary? Okay, no one is absent. So great. So no one is absent today, class. So great job, class. Okay, so class, I'm so happy that you are all here in my class. That no absent. So by the way, um, in this class today, our lesson for today is all about identifying the elements of the story. So what all I have to do right now, class, is I will read a short story for you entitled "A Good Man is Hard to Find." And then all you need to do right now is just please listen, and then you will be having group a groupings after I read this story. A Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor. So the grandmother tries to convince her son, Bailey, and his wife to take the family to East Tennessee for vacation instead of Florida. She points out an article about the misfit as an escaped convict heading toward Florida, and adds that the children have already been there. John Wesley, 8 years old, suggests that the grandmother stay home, and his sister June Starr says nastily that his grandmother would never do that. On the day of the trip, the grandmother hides her cat, Pitty Sing, in a basket in the car. She wears a dress and hat with flowers on it so that people will know she is a lady if there's an accident. In the car, John Weasley says he doesn't like Georgia, and the grandmother chastises him for not respecting his home state. When they pass a cotton field, she says there are graves in the middle of in that belonged to the plantation and jokes that the plantation has gone with the wind. Later, she tells a story about an old suitor, Edgar Atkins Teagarden. Edgar brought her a watermelon every week, into which he carved his initials EAT. Once he left on the porch and a black child ate it because he thought it said eat. The family stops at a restaurant called The Tower, owned by Red Sammy Butts. Red Sammy complains that people are untrustworthy, explaining that he recently let two men buy gasoline on credit. The grandmother tells him he's a good man for doing it. Red Sam's wife says she doesn't trust anyone, including Red Sam. So the grandmother asks her if she's heard about the misfit, and the woman worries that he'll rob them. Red Sam says a good man is hard to find. So he and the grandmother lament the state of the world. Back in the car, the grandmother wakes from a nap and realizes that a plantation she once visited is nearby. She says that the house had six white columns and was at the end of an oak tree lined driveway. She realized that the house had a secret panel to make the house seem more interesting. Excited, the children beg to go to the house until Bailey angrily gives in. The grandmother points him to a dirt road. The family drives deep into the woods. The grandmother suddenly remembers that the house was in Tennessee, not in Georgia. Horrified at her mistake, she jerks her feet. Pitsy escapes from the basket and startles Bailey, who wrecks the car. The children's mother breaks her shoulder, but no one else is hurt. The grandmother decides not to tell Bailey about her mistake. A passing car stops and three men get out, carrying guns. The grandmother thinks she recognizes one of them. One of the men, wearing glasses and no shirt, descends into the ditch. He tells the children's mother to make the children sit down because they make him nervous. So the grandmother suddenly screams because she realizes that he's the misfit. So the man says it's not good that she recognizes him. So Bailey curses violently, upsetting the grandmother. So the grandmother asks the misfit whether he'd shoot a lady, and the misfit says he would like to. So the grandmother claims that she can tell he's a good man and that he comes from nice people. So the misfit agrees and praises his parents. The grandmother continues telling him he's a good man. The misfit tells the other two men, Hiram and Bobby Lee, to take Bailey and John Wesley into the woods. So the grandmother adjusts her hat, but the brim breaks off. So the misfit says he knows he isn't good, but that he isn't the worst man either. He apologizes to the grandmother and the children's mother for not wearing a shirt and says that he and the other man had to bury their clothes after they escaped. So he says they borrow the clothes they're wearing from some people they met. The grandmother asks the misfit whether he ever prays. Just as he says no, she hears two gunshots. The misfit says he used to be a gospel singer, and the grandmother chants, "Pray, pray." He says he wasn't a bad child, but that at one point he went to prison for a crime he can't remember committing. He says a psychiatrist told him he'd killed his father. So grandmother tells the misfit to pray so that Jesus will help him. The misfit says he's fine on his own. Billy and Hiram come back from the woods, and Babili gives the misfit the shirt Belly had been wearing, but the grandmother doesn't realize it's Bailey's. The misfit tells the children's mother to take the baby and Star and go with Bobby Lee and Hiram into the woods. So Bobby Lee tries to hold Star's hand, but she says he looks like a pig. The grandmother starts chanting, "Jesus, Jesus." The misfit says he's like Jesus, except Jesus hadn't committed a crime. He says he gave himself this name because his punishment doesn't seem to fit the crime people said he committed. A gunshot comes from the woods. The grandmother begs the misfit not to shoot a lady. Two more gunshots come from the woods, and the grandmother cries out for Belly. The misfit says that Jesus confused everything by raising the dead. He says that if what Jesus did is true, then everyone must follow him. But if he didn't actually raise the dead, then all anyone can do is enjoy their time on earth by indulging in meanness. The grandmother agrees that perhaps Jesus didn't raise the dead. The misfit says he wishes he had been there so he could know for sure. So the grandmother calls the misfit one of my own children, and the misfit shoots her in the chest 3 times. Babili and Hiram return, and they all look at the grandmother. The misfit observes that the grandmother could have been a good woman if someone had been around to shoot her every minute of her life. The misfit says life has no true pleasure. So that's all with the story. A good man is hard to find. So now, what is the story all about? So may I have Miss Torifel? Okay, so Miss Torifel, what is the story all about? Mm-hmm. Okay, okay, that's great, Miss Torifel. So next, what is your opinion about the story? Anyone? Oh, I see Miss Lubiano raising her hand. Okay, go Miss Lubiano. Okay, good job. So last is who are the main characters in this story? Oh, I guess you all raising your hand. So may I choose Mr. Karael? Okay, that's it. As you observe in the story, there are peoples, place, conflict, and resolution. Peoples are the characters, place is the setting, conflict and resolution. Those are elements of the story. So, based on the story I have read, there are elements of the story. So, now, what have you noticed about this story? Can I have Mr. Zabate? Okay, that's it. So, by the way, class, element of the story is always there in each story. Okay, now class, let's have a five group since you are 30 in the class. Each group need to have 6 members, then you can choose your leader. So group yourselves right now. I'll give you 5 minutes to choose your leader. Oh, so do you have your leader right now? Okay, very good. So, class, stay to your group, then do a brainstorm about the elements of the story that we discussed earlier. I will give you 15 minutes for brainstorming, and then after that, each group will come in front of the class, then share about what you learned about the elements of the story. I will give you 15 minutes also in sharing here in front. So 15 minutes divided by 5 groups is 3. So each group have 3 minutes to share here in front. So brainstorming first time starts now. Again, 15 minutes for brainstorming, and after that 15 minutes also for sharing. 15 minutes for sharing, and each group have 3 minutes. And let's start with group 1. Group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So manage your time, guys. Focus on your brainstorming. Okay, so let's start the sharing, guys. Let's start with group 1. Then um, to be followed by 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Hey, good job, 5 groups. So that's all for our lesson for today. Hope you'd enjoy and learn new things today, class. Thank you so much, class, for your participation. Let us always remember a good man is rare, a shining beacon of compassion and integrity. This is Teacher Sherry. Thank you, and class dismissed.